Hey Star Wars fans, my name is Prince and I'm an urban acolyte, and in this video we're going to be talking about how the Force works in Star Wars.
We'll use the Force. That's not how the Force works.
Now in this video I'm really responding to a comment that came from Andrew5086, and Andrew said, "I'm just a novice, but wouldn't Chi be closer to the living Force that Qui-Gon Jinn speaks a great deal of, and Cosmic Force brought up later in the canon seems similar to the Tao? They're different Chinese philosophical concepts that developed at different times, but they do talk of the two in Tai Chi philosophy." So the concept of Chi to me means something completely different from maybe how you're perceiving it. And I don't want to say that you're wrong, because when I get through explaining what I'm about to say, you'll actually see that that what you're saying is kind of on the right path of what Qui-Gon is talking about, but it's kind of like there's some words being lost in translation. So it's great that we're using Chinese philosophy, the Tai Chi principles, as kind of our common ground, because that's something that Dave Filoni actually said in his interview, and I'm going to go back over what he said. So to remind you, Dave Filoni said, well, what that tells you is that when I was a kid, I believed that probably everyone had the Force. They just didn't believe in it. Midichlorians actually prove that theory out. We all have it. We just have it to differing degrees. For a long time, I used someone like Bruce Lee as an example. He had a lot of natural talent for martial arts, or a very high midichlorian count. But if I trained at martial arts and I learned martial arts, then yes, I can improve my midichlorian count. So based on this, I would say that Chi would be more like the midichlorians. And then this thing higher than Chi, so you have Jing, Qi, Shin, if we're really getting into Taoist Neigong and that their philosophical views on cultivation. So Shin would be more in line with the living Force. And I'm just going to really quickly go over the living Force and the cosmic Force for those who may not have any idea what we're talking about. So the living Force was an aspect of the Force. It was fed from the energy of living things and was distinct from the cosmic Force. It made possible the phenomenon of Force spirits. The cosmic Force was an aspect of the Force that bound everything together from energy fed into it through the living Force. Yoda, speaking with the spirit of Qui-Gon Jinn, learned that this aspect of the Force enabled them to communicate through the midichlorians.
Living beings generate the living Force, which in turn powers the wellspring that is the cosmic Force. All energy from the living Force, from all things that have ever lived, feeds into the cosmic Force, binding everything and communicating to us through the midichlorians. Because of this, I can speak to you now.
And Qui-Gon was always considered a student of the living Force. He stressed its importance to Obi-Wan Kenobi when he was his Padawan, and he would tell him that being mindful of the living Force required him to keep his concentration on the here and now, rather than letting anxieties about the future come at the expense of the present moment. Now, I said that Chi would be closer to the midichlorians because the midichlorians is what allows us to speak to the Force, to understand the will of the Force, right? And I know some people are like, Prince, this isn't real stuff. This is fictional. Well, I would have to disagree with you. Rand Roberts, when she was asked, are there any ideas that make Star Wars what it is, said that the notion that there is this invisible energy field or this Force surrounding us and penetrating us that kind of influences everything that we do. There is a very real thing about that notion that I think is really powerful. And along with that, the notion that we can all tap into that it's not exclusive to anyone. So it's like the who am I? What do I do with it? And how do I relate to other people now that I have become aware and have become able to tap into this Force, right? So to someone who replied to what I said in the midichlorians and the Force video, where I was actually quoting Dave Filoni through almost the entire video, the Force is not something that only Jedi can tap into. everyone can tap into the force. And if we're talking about in real life, there is a force, there is a cosmic force. In some branches of Buddhism, it's called the stream, right? The stream of consciousness, the stream of all being. For Taoists, it is the Tao. In some esoteric branches of Christianity, Judaism, or Islam, which are the Sufis, they consider it like the eternal God, like God Almighty. In a sense, it's the God above God that Paul Tillich talks about in his writing. For my theologian nerds out there, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The concept of the God above God, the God above the concepts of God in all the world religions that Paul Tillich wrote about in the Dynamics of Faith, and probably some other works, or some people, Tillich and some other theologians, call it the ground of all being. That's what the cosmic force would be in real life, for those of you who may not know or are just uninformed or like to troll my videos and say, Prince, this isn't real life stuff. There are real world concepts, other ways of knowing the force. Those of us who buy into Jediism just choose to use the language that George Lucas created because it's easy and it's fun, and we like Star Wars movies. Hence why I have a Star Wars channel, right? Why do I say that Chi would be more like the midichlorians? That's getting back to what I said a long time ago in this video, is that we've got to come to a common definition. Now, in Ili Chin, the system of Chinese internal martial arts that I study, go back and look at the videos with Sifu Ashig's when I was out in Phoenix, and he says that for him, training Ili Chin is the closest thing that he knows to being a real life Jedi. Because in Ili Chin, the way we define Chi is not some magic energy or bioenergy or whatever the latest thing people are trying to say in the world of Chi theory to prove to Western science that is true. Chi is a phenomena that occurs based on when the body aligns itself in a certain kind of way. For us, it's based on the 13 points in Ili Chin, and the mind reaches a state of awareness. The body exhibits a certain kind of stretch. We call this the Chi stretch. When the Chi stretch, when those conditions are met, then you're able to start to understand, I'll say, the will of the force, right? So when a person has reached a state of awareness where they're in the moment, right, then they are able to discern the will of the force through their midichlorians. Now, doing a certain type of training can possibly increase their midichlorian count, or it can increase their awareness, their ability to directly conversate with the midichlorians in order to understand the will of the force, in order to move in harmony with the force. Now, why am I saying all of this? Well, look at Chirrut Imwe when he is introduced to us in the trailer for Star Wars Rogue One, right? Stormtroopers are shooting at him, at a blind guy, and he's dodging everything. And he says, I fear nothing. All is as the force wills it, right? Because he has reached a state through his practice, whatever level, whatever count of midichlorians he has, really doesn't matter. What he has is what he has, and he does the most that he can to the best of his ability with what he's given, right? But he is understanding how to move in harmony with the force, in harmony with the Tao, right? One of my Taoist teachers always would say, who's passed on, would say, go with the Tao, right? When you reach this state of awareness through practice, through discipline, then you can start to understand the will of the force. You can move in harmony with the Tao. You can listen to the stream and allow yourself to float along the currents of the stream. And it's not your will, but it is its will, right? What did Bruce Lee say? I don't hit, it hits. It hits on its own, right? It's in harmony, right? In Ili Chin, when we speak of Fa Jin, which is explosive power, you know, when you see the Kung Fu movies where the Kung Fu master taps someone and they go flying, that's Fa Jin, right? we say that Fa Jin is not doing anything. It's just allowing something to happen, right? You're touching a stress point in that other person based on your ability to relax more than them, right? And this is everything that we are seeing in Star Wars. And the reason that I love Star Wars more now than ever before is because that I'm seeing that the things, the philosophies, the concepts, and the principles that I'm building my life around are what inspired George Lucas. We just haven't seen it yet in Star Wars. And so I hope that answers your question. Chi, yes, Chi is a component of the living force, but I would consider the living force to be more in line with Shin, right? And so you need Jing, Chi, Shin. When you reach that Shin level, then we're talking about living force, and the cosmic force is just all the Shin energy from everyone, their spiritual energy. It's what collects and powers. It surrounds us and binds us and penetrates and holds the galaxy together. And it's this one all-controlling force that shapes everyone's destiny. And it is a beautiful thing. So thank you all for allowing me to share this information with you. I hope it didn't bore you. And if it did, well, then you're probably just not actually cut out to be an urban acolyte. So if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click on that subscribe button so that you can take your first steps towards becoming an urban acolyte. This is September, and I'm going to be rolling out lots of videos on Star Wars Rebels, but every now and then I'll take time out to do videos like this one. I'm probably also going to do a video on how Rey will balance the Force in this saga and what it means to balance the Force. So stay tuned for that. Stay tuned for all the Rebel stuff that I have coming out. And thanks for allowing me to share my thoughts with you guys. So that's all I've got for this one. Thanks for watching. Y'all keep on breathing, and may the Force be with you always.